Hello and welcome to this week's angling blog. I hope I find your families all well and safe. You've been getting a bend in the rod and having a good time bankside. This week you join me back on the banks of the River Severn and we're in search of barbel and chub. Before we get into this week's blog, I'd like to thank everybody who enjoyed last week's blog where we fished the muddy banks of the River Severn for those barbel. It's great that you guys enjoy the channel so much, and thank you to everybody that left such nice comments and enjoyed the video. So later on in the vlog we go back in search of those barbel in better conditions with the banks a bit safer. But before that I had a session on a local river in search of silvers on the wing. So arriving on the bank I mixed up a few balls of the Hinders supercharged ground bait. Always best to do that when you first arrive. Allow it to settle, set your rigs up, and then I made up 5 to 6 big balls of the ground bait to feed into the swim. A cool morning on the bank, it didn't take long for a few fish to arrive. Small at first, but then the better fish did arrive. As always with summer fishing, it can be feast or famine, and conditions really can dictate your sport. I continue to get plenty of bites in the morning from those bream, with some nice fish coming to the net, but as the sun got on the water, so the sport did tail off. But with my uncle back on the bank and Gary had made the trip down, a great session on the bank, a nice little net of silvers at the end of it, and a good day by the river. After that session I got a delivery of the new Xcalibre rods from Korum. I was super excited to get down on the River Severn and try and catch some fish on them. Travelling down the A49 with the sun on me back, I knew we'd be in for a much safer and enjoyable session than last week's. Arriving on the river, the farmers' fields around it were golden and the river had that tinge of colour and was dropping slowly. It looked good for a couple of bites, walking along the bank, just checking out the swims and all the beautiful scenery around, and that is where you join me now on the bank. So looking at the swim and where we're going to be fishing, the river to the right comes round a bend and there's a tree just out of sight, and what it's created is a slack here. Today the water's coloured, so we've got every chance of getting the barbel quite close to us. Of course the barbel will be out in that main flow out there because that's what they're built for, but the area I'm going to be concentrating on, you can just see where that white dot is there going down. You can see it's moving a lot slower than right out there, and that slack or crease in the river there where the slack water meets that fast water is where I'm hoping the barbel are going to lie. So at the start, as you can see on screen now, I put some hemp in that line, so it's just going to slowly go down that crease. You don't want to put it too far downstream because you want to keep the barbel in your swim. So if you put it here, it'll slowly trundle down and cover the whole swim going downstream. The right hand rod is just at the start of the slack there, hoping to pick up anything that's actually sat in the slack on a big piece of meat. Downstream we've gone with the tactics that I've done as well over the time that I've been barbel fishing and what I was taught. A nice 10mm ellipse pellet on a band and a size 12 grappler hook, and we'll start with that and see how we do. As I always say, start with what you know and only make changes if it's not working. So let's sit back and hope that the rod wraps around with a barbel. So one thing that I love about barbel fishing is the polar opposites of it. Right now it's calm, the birds are singing, and it's just a peaceful place to be. There's a nice breeze that's cooling because it's quite a warm day. We've got a bit of blue sky, but at any moment it could be absolute chaos if one of them rods bounces round and the bait runner starts going. And that is what is so addictive about barbel fishing. It's the complete opposite. We've just had a fish just topping the swim, So there are one or two in the slack. I've had a couple of pulls on the rod tip where it's just arched, and a couple of bangs on the meat rod. So there's one or two fish about. Just going to keep casting every 15 minutes to build up that bed of bait, and then pellets going through the swim. So the right hand rod on the meat has been getting lots of taps where it's just pulled round and bounced back and the meat's gone. The beauty of the rig that I use for barbel fishing is you can just unclip one hook link and put on another. So I've just put on a shorter hook link and I've put a pellet on the end just to try and see if we can hook whatever's down there. So that left hand rod has been tapping all the time. It's finally just bounced back and we got a chub, and I did think it was Mr. Chub. Just then taps on the top of it, just give it away sometimes, not the bolt of a barbel. So sometimes they describe chub as warriors, and this chub is definitely one of them. Certainly in the winter of its years on this river, and at one time could have been a very big chub. It's going £4, 8 or 10 ounces it's bumping between. It's battered, and I bet you it's got a few stories to tell. It's certainly a warrior. We won't keep this old fella out too long and we'll get it straight back. So let's have a look at the bait that we'll be using on the session. Be using the Ellipse small pellets in the feeder along with the Cheshire Particle hemp, and I'm going to be capping that feeder with the Hinders Barbel Bomb ground bait. On the hook I'm going to be going with either a 10mm or an 8mm pellet, and over the top I'm planning to feed quite a lot of the hemp seed. As you can see, we've got a big bucket. Can put plenty in and put a bed down and try and get them barbel in the swim. As I always say on the vlog, simple tactics, but a lot of the time simple works. So that shorter hook link has paid off within 4 casts as the rod is hooped round. Lovely to have a bend in the new rod. Almost certainly a barbel. And that is what we come for. River Severn barbel, £5, 10 ounces. Great to get a bite on the new rods. So we've had that chub on the right and this barbel on the left. I am going to be using it as a barbel rod, so we'll take the wrapping off the left hand rod. More than made up. It just shows little changes can have a huge impact. That rod's been tapping away for the last 3 hours. Shorter hook link, and straight away with a couple of casts, a barbel on the bank. Keep it out too long and we'll get it straight back. And as always, a good rest in the edge until the right. You can see there he's kicking away, but he's not quite ready, and both the rods are in, and we just leave him there for as long as it takes. Sometimes it can take a couple of minutes, like this one I don't think will be too long. Other times it can be 15, and the most important thing isn't the next fish, is making sure this one goes back okay. Sometimes, I don't know about the barbel needing a rest, it doesn't half get the heart rate pumping when that rod goes. Like I said before, when you're sat there with not much happening, and then that rod just comes to life, it starts, spool starts spinning. Yeah, I can see why people enjoy it so much. So this guy's just about right to go, and there we go. So with the wrapping off the rod, let's take a look at the setup that we're going to be going with today. Recently I mentioned that I was going to pick up a pair of dedicated barbel rods because I've enjoyed it so much. The rods I've decided to go with are the brand new Korum Xcalibres in 1.75 pound test curve and 12 foot version. I'm hoping these rods will do me well for the barbel on the River Severn, on the River Wye. Like with all the tackle on the vlog, you'll see it getting used week in, week out, and we'll let the fishing do the talking. But early impressions are they are quite light, they balance well with that shadow reel, and yeah, looking forward to catching some more fish on them. So proper made up with that barbel. Sometimes there's a real buzz when you've changed something and you've worked at it. Sometimes when you cast in and the rod just bends round and there's a barbel on the end, and then the next one comes along, it can lack that fulfillment sometimes. But when you've worked at it and you've swapped and changed and something's worked, there is a buzz to that. And I've been sat here thinking about Mr. Chub from this morning, and pop a comment below if you think we should remove the wrapping from the rod for Mr. Chub. He was an old timer, wasn't he? Battered and bruised, and it would be nice just to take the wrapping off that right hand rod for that chub. Presuming that the rod doesn't go again, but as the session goes on, the bait is going downstream, isn't it? So the chances are the left hand rod will probably go again if it's going to go. But if it doesn't go with a barbel, pop a comment below if we should take the wrapping off for Mr. Chub. And I cast right down the back of the swim, right down the tree there, just in line with it, and within moments the rod's gone round and we're into another fish. Hanging right at the back of the swim. And earlier on this session we had that gnarly old chub, didn't we? And it's mad to think that it started life as pristine as this one. And I wonder what adventures this little guy has got to come, and whether he'll dodge the predators that live in this river, like the pike, the otters and the cormorants, to get to that ripe old age of that other a lovely fish. What does he think he's doing? He literally just landed on the peg and you just make yourself at home, mate. But yeah, not a care in the world. And as always, you let one in, he disappears, and she comes back with a few more. Unreal. So if you're new to barbel fishing and you're finding casting long hook links out into the river difficult with the foliage behind you, if you just push your hook bait into the bottom of your feeder, the line will hang below. As it breaks down in the river, that'll come out and lie below your feeder, but you won't get tangled when you're casting. Just a little tip that I was shown. Probably most people who do a lot of barbel fishing will know it, but anyone new, little tip for you. With the ducks on the peg, the rod has gone again, and I'm sorry ducks, but Mr. Barbel or Chub is more important. The way it's digging into the bank, it could be another chub. It's mad how chub always go for that inside bank. The barbel almost arrogantly stay out in the middle, but the chub, he knows what he's doing. Just fining down to an 8-pound hook link and a 6mm pellet to try and get a bite, and it's worked. I don't know if you've seen over the far side then, but that pike has been over there all day. PB chub, £4, 13 ounces, and we've had some near misses this year, and this £4, 12. We're getting closer every time, but that is a stunning chub. And when you look at the one we had before, like I said earlier, that was in a bit of its later years, this one is most certainly in its prime. Fin perfect, fought dirty going for the inside cover, but a lovely chub. One happy angler, happy days. Let's get it straight back. So it's been a day of making constant changes and working the swim, keeping baiting and changing the rigs. That's one of the new grappler hooks that are coming out soon in a size 14. On the band was a 6mm pellet, finding it right down. Really fine line, 8-pound fluorocarbon, and the barbel before come on a short hook link, but as you can see there, a really long tail down to the feeder. Has managed to fool that chub. Well, the sun has now gone completely off the water where I'm fishing. You can just see it glistening on top of the trees in the distance, and it has been a tough day today. It's been good fun, and I like the sessions where it's not easy and you've got to work for it, because in the long run you'll learn a lot more. The days where you're casting and the rod keeps going, you don't really learn that much. The days where it's hard, you've got to keep changing, keep working at it. And the days in sessions to come, you'll look back on and remember what little things did work, and you'll try them again. With them two chub and that barbel, more than happy. Going to give it maybe an hour into dark, maybe tonight. Just got a good feeling that there is still a barbel to be had from the swim. So we'll give it until dark and we'll see how we do. Unfortunately, no more bites were forthcoming in the last hours into darkness. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching the vlog. Tight lines in your own fishing. It'd be great if you could like and subscribe, and I'll catch us all next week. Tight lines.